Welcome back. Joining me to put the day's markets action into perspective is Cobus Potgieter from Southern Cross Capital. Cobus, thanks so much for your time today. Now, it's been quite a slow start to the second quarter. I mean, I thought things have taken a turn for the better yesterday as sentiment improved and all we saw was green screens. But those U.S. markets ending the day off in the red, which then filtered through to today's mood, which is... that risk-off sentiment is ridiculous. Is this mainly on the back of that hawkish commentary from the Fed?
Yeah, well, one of the members of the Fed.
Yes.
Let's be clear. So we had the president speaking the day before, and he sort of managed fears and essentially demonstrated that they believed that inflation was being tamed, and with their rate cutting, they could initiate the rate cutting cycle soon. Which sort of put everyone at ease and thought, the pivoting thesis was on the table, was holding true, and we saw markets rally significantly. Now, another member, once again, trying to ensure, the market, that we are sticking to our mandate in terms of maintaining inflation, and if need be, we will not hike once this year. And that really spooked. We will not cut once this year, and that really spooked the market. Adding fuel to the fire, we've got jobs numbers coming out later this afternoon, and the expectation is for those to be robust. Again, that would be problematic from an inflationary perspective, and decrease the likelihood of us entering that cutting cycle sooner rather than later.
So a tight balancing act for the Fed. I mean, you have sticky inflation, you have really good growth in the US, you have a really strong labor market. It's just, we're just crossing fingers and toes for those rate cuts soon at this point. I want to move over to some company news now. Now, Nvidia is planning to build a 200 million AI center in Indonesia. This isn't its first project in the Southeast Asian region. I think at the beginning of the year, they had a partnership with a Singapore telco provider, Singtel. Cobus, what's behind the push into Southeast Asia?
Okay, so it must be said that this has only been announced by the communications minister of Indonesia. Both the telco involved and Nvidia are not commenting at the moment. And he used the term AI center and then sort of nonchalantly mentioned that it could include a human resources center and or perhaps communications equipment. So we've got no idea precisely what this project is, and we're sort of taking this, frankly, politician at his word, and he's probably not in a position to provide details in any case, and the actual market participants are not willing to provide details yet either. It's possible that they're still in an early stage in terms of negotiation. So that's hard to say. Broader comment, Nvidia are certainly moving towards investments in a broader sphere beyond just Taiwan. I mean, everybody's talking about sort of the centralization of risk within the semiconductor market, given this very severe earthquake that we had in the last week, which sort of underlines the prudence of the US pursuing an independent semiconductor strategy onshore. But these investments thus far, other than investments into Malaysia, which is emerging as a significant player in the semiconductor space, has been in more, call it add-on services from an Nvidia perspective. So they have some kind of a strategy, and forgive me because this is some of the stuff's beyond my understanding, in terms of integrating AI within what they see as the fastest growing telecoms sectors in the world, in these lesser developed Southeast Asian economies. So I don't know precisely what they are planning in Indonesia, and I'm not particularly keen to speculate, but Jensen Huang has certainly been investing into that region quite heavily, both from a semiconductor perspective, but also from those downstream services.
We'll be keeping a close eye and looking out in terms of what Nvidia says about this partnership moving forward. In local company news, Sunam has continued its bet into India. The financial services group upped its stake in 2 Indian firms it invested in quite some years back. Salam says the move will see it deliver strong returns in the medium to long term. Cobus, what have you made of this? And I mean, the last time I checked, Salam's share price was in the red. Surely this is just being impacted by broader market sentiment right now, right?
Yes. So the sector's selling off. Salam's actually selling off slightly less. So I don't. This is not that significant. They had the optionality to do this, and they were likely to do it anyway. Though, as they reiterated in the announcement, they do. They're still committed to the strategy, and even though the sentiment around India sort of gone up and down. Of late, it's been very positive, and I think generally the market would be reasonably happy with this. It's not that significant. They're swapping some of the shares in one of their smaller associate holdings, paying in a little bit of, 2 billion rand in capital. Not a little bit, but not as significant as some of the investments we saw before, to top that value up. And that associate, which they owned 40% of now, actually becomes a subsidiary, because they'll end up owning more than 50% of it, which means the results will be consolidated into their own income statement and not reflected as an associate line. So that's, like almost from an accounting perspective, that means it's part of their business now. It's not just an investment they've made. So pursuing that quite aggressively, but relative to what it was before this transaction, not that big, and pretty much expected in terms of their rights of exercise of those options.
And it's been quite slim in terms of company news. That's why we're touching on it. Cobus, before I let you go, what's your stock pick?
My stock pick is something different today,
Okay.
and I'm bottom fishing. It's Sokosan, specifically Sokosan Gaming, the casino operator.
Cobus, thanks.
So
Yes.
this is a very cheap stock at the moment, and it's one of those lesser loved small caps or small or mid caps in the South African listed on the JSE. We hear the CEOs complaining about these all the time, but they do present investment opportunities if you can get the liquidity in them. It's trading at a PE of 5.5 backwards looking. We haven't had any news or announcements or engagement since the results, almost for the period ended 6 months ago now. And ultimately, it's a business that's it's operating well. It's very specialist and focused, runs South African casinos only, and it's one of those industries that we anticipate to continue see some recovery post COVID, as has already partially occurred. So we think it operates a pretty slick business model, very focused, unlike its peers, which are venturing offshore and still involved in hotel groups. I think it's just one of those things that flies under the radar, and it's incredibly cheap at the moment. So the PE of 5.5 and a dividend yield of around 8%.
So Sokosan Gaming, one to look out for. Cobus, thanks so much for your time and those insights. That was Cobus Potgieter from Southern Cross Capital.